So we're at the top of lava. I really want to run it, but it's really big. It's so big, it's making me nauseous. I can't even sit there anymore, but I really want to run it.
This is Abby Holcombe. She's 12 years old in the recording. Now she's 13, and she's sitting at the top of Lava Falls, the most notorious rapid in the Grand Canyon. This is a legendary rapid. I mean, I am not a kayaker, I am not a paddler at all, and I know about lava falls. Abby's talking into a GoPro and trying to decide whether to kayak through the massive whitewater. And before you jump to conclusions, it's not an accident that Abby found herself here. She's a rising star in the world of kayaking, and she thought about this moment for a long time.
I feel like if I don't run it, it'll be like unfinished business, and I'm not sure I'll be able to get on a trip right away after this, since it took so long for my parents to get this one trip.
This is a crazy moment. I mean, I think we can pretty much all relate to it on some level.
And I don't want to miss that opportunity, but at the same time, I really don't want to run it.
That moment or decision, when we look up at the next pitch of rock we're about to lead, or we look down at the line we're about to ski, a section of whitewater, whatever it is this crazy moment where we are given the opportunity to walk right up to our fear and pick that fear apart and analyze it. And it's not just in the outdoors. It doesn't just happen there. The scariest decisions I've made in life weren't anywhere near the mountains. They were centered around love, family, work, and principles. And I often reflect back how much my time in the mountains, the constant evaluation of true risk to reward, made me better at making those tough life decisions. Growth is scary, but that's one of the greatest gifts that the outdoors gives us. When it comes to the stories we've done on the diaries, I know that I'm not supposed to have favorites, but I do. A lot of them. And today's story is definitely one of them. We originally ran this story in 2017, and it felt like a story that I needed to hear again, that maybe we all needed to hear again, about somebody doing something incredible. But we wanted to find out what happened next. So producer Lauren Delaney Miller caught up with Abby Holcombe to see where her path had taken her. So make sure you listen through. We've got an all-new ending. Today, our producer, Jen Altschul, brings you Winnebago Warriors, a story about two parents who pushed through their own fears in order to live their dream and in turn taught their daughter to do the same. At its heart, this is a story about learning how to make decisions when the consequences are undeniable. I'm Fitz Cahall, and you're listening to the Dirtbag Diaries. Go, Abby, go.
So, you guys don't exactly live in a house in the suburbs with a white picket fence.
No, we live in a 24-foot-long Winnebago with a huge trailer on the back full of kayaks, and we've been doing that for the past 3 years now.
Abby and her parents, Peter and Kathy, always traveled a lot for adventures outside. But 3 years ago, the Holcombes' lives looked a lot like a lot of outdoor families where they lived. In a house in Boulder, Colorado. Here's Peter.
We were coming back from Utah one day, and Kathy had the idea, like, we're spending a lot of time driving back and forth from all these great places. What if we sold our house, bought an RV, and instead of driving back and forth to mow the lawn and do the laundry, what if we just stayed there and we went from one place to the next place to the next place and skipped the whole going home part?
Here's Kathy.
We dreamed about it since we first met when we were 20. We'd go on 2 or 3 month trips, and it was always our favorite thing.
She kept bringing it up, and I thought, well, yeah, that'd be really neat. That'd be awesome. That's kind of like my dream. But that's not what you do as a responsible adult. We got a mortgage and a kid and all this stuff.
Finally, I was like, we just need to do it. It's time to just try it and figure it out. We've always talked about it. We've always dreamed about it. We owe it to ourselves to see what it's really like. I don't want to get old and fade away wondering if that was something that could have changed everything for us.
I started really thinking there might be some merit to that. And I was like, what the heck, let's try it.
A year after Kathy broached the idea, she and Peter put their house on the market.
It sold in 2.5 hours. I went out the next week and drove down to Texas and bought our first RV. We had 2 weeks to pack up our whole house and sell things and do that whole nightmare. And we hit the road. Now we're on the end of our 3rd year. And gosh, we've been over 100,000 miles and been to 49 states, a lot of Canada. It's been amazing.
It really has been a dream come true.
Okay, here are the answers to your first round of questions. Kathy and Peter work as photojournalists. Even when they lived in Boulder, they traveled a lot for work. It wasn't a huge leap to take their jobs with them on the road. Abby goes to school online. Yes, her parents did worry about pulling her out of public school, especially Kathy, a former middle school teacher. They worried about what would happen to her social life. But Abby says she has more friends now than she did when they lived in Colorado.
You'd think that my friends would shrink, but not only do I have my friend base in Boulder, I also have them all over the country from where I've met.
They also worried that she wouldn't get a good enough education. But all 3 of them say that, actually, she's learning more on the road than she could have hoped to in school.
She's captained 80-foot schooners in the ocean. She's found gold in the American River where the gold rush started. And we've been to Alaska and watched grizzly bears outside our RV window. She's learning what she needs to learn. She's learning how to communicate through technology, which is really getting her prepared for the future. And the experiences that she's had on the road are something that you couldn't get any other way.
What do you hope that she gets out of growing up this way?
I hope that she sees Peter and I chasing our dreams and watching them come true. When we were living in our house, we were always compromising because we had the weight of a mortgage and the weight of all this responsibility and the weight of doing what we thought we should be doing. And once we decided that we needed to do what we dreamed we could do, we pulled it off. And I want her to see that she can do that too, whatever her wildest dreams are, to chase them and pursue them and not stop until they come true. And if she can learn that out of this, we've done a good job as parents.
Once they moved into the RV, Kathy, Peter, and Abby followed good weather to rock climbing and whitewater kayaking destinations in pretty wild places across North America. Abby started competing in freestyle whitewater kayaking events. Occasionally, they'd park the RV for a few days or a week and go backpacking or paddling in the backcountry. Then, in 2016, after 8 years of putting their names in the lottery, Kathy and Peter drew a permit for a private trip on the Grand Canyon. They pulled together a 6-person team. The Holcombes, Izzy, a woman who owns and operates an outfitter and guide service out of Boulder City, Nevada. Ron, Izzy's uncle, the scout leader with a permanent smile. And Doug, a classic Idaho oarsman who's done all of the great western rivers, but would never tell you if you didn't ask. Abby, Kathy, and Peter would bring their kayaks. The other 3 would row 2 rafts and carry supplies. Peter had kayaked the entire canyon before and planned to do so again. Abby and Kathy would have the option to ride the rafts through any of the rapids they didn't want to paddle. In late June, 8 months before the Grand Canyon launch, the Holcombes paddled Idaho's main salmon, a 2-week river trip with 10 solid Class 3 rapids. Kind of offhandedly, Peter asked Abby if she thought she could kayak the whole 100-mile stretch. She told him she didn't know. But the idea stuck in her head. And on the third day of the trip, after she'd made it through some of the bigger rapids, she announced that she wanted to try. A week later, she had paddled every rapid of the main salmon.
So that kind of got in my head, and I was like, okay, we have this Grand Canyon trip coming up, and if I can do 100 miles of the salmon, why not 280 miles of the Grand Canyon?
This is crazy, but maybe not as crazy as it sounds. Abby started kayaking when she was 4. She's placed well in a lot of the events she's competed in. In 2016, she was named Junior Women's Freestyle Kayaking National Champion. So the idea that she might be able to paddle the whole canyon wasn't entirely unreasonable.
It just started getting more of a dream and just bigger and bigger in my head.
Hey, Abby. Where are we? We're at the Grand Canyon! And we're about to do a almost 300-mile river trip.
What are you thinking right now?
I'm so excited, and I just want to get on the water and leave and just go.
What do you think it's going to be like?
I think it's going to be a lot different than we expected. You know, like you hear like the big rapids or whatever, and I don't think they're going to be that bad.
Are you nervous about anything?
Some of the bigger rapids, but like I said, I don't think they're going to be that big of a deal.
All right.
Driving into Lee's Ferry, you cross over the Colorado River and you look down off the bridge and you can see all the boils and swirls in the water, and it's so green and pretty right there. And then I think another really high moment is the moment in a kayak you're sitting on the bank and you get in and you put your skirt on and you kind of slide off into the water, and that's when it all becomes real. It's like, wow, we're going on the Grand Canyon. We're about to do one of the best things ever. It's like the river trip of all river trips for North America. Abby took off charging down the river, and I almost had to reel her back in. I was like, hey, you gotta wait on the rafts. They're a little slower than we are, you know? And
We started the day off at Lee's Ferry, and we've gone kayaking all day for 10 or 11 miles, and we're here at Soap Camp, and it's just so exciting.
Is there anything else you want to say about the first day?
This whole trip, it's been like, I haven't comprehended that we're launching. It's been a month till we're launching. It's like, whoa. And it's been 2 weeks until we're launching. It's like, whoa. And there's been 1 week until we're launching, and then 1 day until we're launching. It just struck me today, like around noon, that it's like, wow, we're in the Grand Canyon. Like, this is huge. This is real. Like, we're here.
Okay, so tomorrow we've got some more rapids. We're probably going to get into the Roaring 20s.
Yay.
A bunch of rapids stacked up. Are you excited for more big or bigger rapids?
I'm super excited for big wave trains. The rapids we ran today, they were big, but they weren't hard. So like they could be more challenging, and the waves could be totally so much bigger, and I would still have a super fun time.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye. Abby out.
The section of the Colorado that runs through the Grand Canyon is big water. Big enough to earn its very own rating system for the size and difficulty of the more than 80 rapids that punctuate the 225-mile stretch downstream of Lee's Ferry. Other whitewater is rated on a scale from Class 1 to Class 5. The scale for the rapids on the Grand Canyon goes up to Class 10. It's not that the rapids are more difficult to navigate than on other rivers, or that they necessarily have higher consequences. They're just straight bigger. 8 miles below the put-in, the river starts to flex its muscles. At mile 17, House Rock Rapid can dole out a beating to inexperienced rafters. But size and maneuverability allow kayaks to skirt the biggest features. From miles 20 to 30, a quick succession of rapids known as the Roaring 20s gives boaters a taste of what's to come. But after that, for the rest of the first week, the rapids stay the same size or smaller, and can lull paddlers into a false sense of confidence. For the first week, the Holcombes and their group settled into river life. Kathy and Peter gave Abby her own dry bag to pack, and Abby took great pride in finding her own campsite each night and setting up and tearing down her own tent. She remained unperturbed about mashing through the massive rapids in her tiny boat. But everything changes at mile 77, day 8, the first Class 8 rapids on the river, starting with Hans.
Hans was first, and I looked at it. I was nervous for it. So I went through that, and then we had Horn. It's hard for rafts, but with the maneuverability of a kayak, you can kind of avoid some of the bigger features. And so I'm starting to notice this pattern, and we finally get to Granite, and that pattern does not continue on with Granite.
That was the first time on that trip that I'd seen fear in her eyes.
After the break, Abby makes her decision about Granite. I have packed so many snacks in my life, like for hikes, road trips, whatever else we get ourselves into so many times. I can't even imagine. I've learned one thing: bring more than you think you need and always have a backup just in case, especially when you're trying to squeeze a little more out of the day and feed growing kids. That's why we love Kodiak granola bars. They've got the kind of stuff I actually want in a snack: protein, 100% whole grains, and flavors that everyone is genuinely excited to eat. They stick with you. They're easy to throw in a pack, stash in a pocket, or keep in the car for that moment when somebody, maybe me, announces they're starving, which in our family is usually about 20 minutes after we leave the house. You can find Kodiak granola bars along with power cakes, oatmeal, and more at kodiakcakes.com or at your local grocery store. They're the ones with the bear on the box. As the days get longer, it makes it easier for me to get out on the trails, which I love. I can go early with the birds when they wake up, or I can stay out late and catch the sunset with friends. Whether you're scrambling up a rocky ridge or trekking through mossy, sun-dappled forests, or maybe you've got your sights set on something bigger like the AT, PCT, or CDT, Oboz has something for you. They craft purpose-built footwear with an unrivaled field and rugged durability. They are committed to making better footwear and protecting our planet. From using recycled materials to powering their headquarters with clean energy, every step they take is intentional. And because they plant trees for every pair sold, Oboz is helping to rebuild the places we love. Thanks to Oboz for supporting the show, but more importantly, thanks for leading in a global movement to do business differently. To find your next pair of footwear, check out obozfootwear.com/lovehiking. Oboz Footwear. Love hiking. Support for the Diaries comes from our good friends at Kuat Racks. Are you looking to level up your truck bed setup for the summer season? The Ibex from Kuat Racks is the perfect companion. This fully modular, all-metal bed rack system is built to handle every season and sport. So whether you're hauling bikes, kayaks, rooftop tents, or just gearing up for the summer road trip, the Ibex adapts with adjustable height options and a growing lineup of accessories. And now, new for 2025, the Ibex Panel Kit. It's designed to partially or fully enclose the Ibex. The panel kit keeps your gear secure and dry from the elements, and the lockable gull-wing doors offer a quick, easy access to the truck bed when you need it. Currently available for 2016 to 2025 Toyota Tacoma short beds, with more fitments on the way. Find out more at kuat.com. Recently, Becca found a jar of her homemade mix of cinnamon and sugar tucked away in our spice drawer, and it was crazy how the simple smell could remind me of being a kid. It took me back in time. Kachava's newest flavor, cinnamon French toast, it brings the nostalgia of being a kid to the whole body nutritional shake. They use cinnamon bark to create a rich flavor that hits just right. With 2 scoops of Kachava, I get 85 plus superfoods, nutrients, and plant-based ingredients. So not only do I get 25 grams of plant-based protein, I'm also getting adaptogens and supergreens at the same time. Kachava now has 9 flavors to choose from, so you never will get bored, including the new cinnamon French toast. So many choices. I like to drink it after lifting weights. Gives me a little bit of boost with my nutrition. Treat yourself to a childhood favorite. Go to kachava.com and use the code DIARIES for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, KACHAVA.com, code DIARIES.
That was the first time on that trip that I'd seen fear in her eyes. We walked up from the scout trail and you're in these tamarack bushes, and they're over your head, so you can't really see anything. You just hear this thunder of the river. and you pop out of the Tammies into the boulders, and you get your first glimpse of this rapid, and it's just giant and churning, and it's like the size of Greyhound buses. I was like, wow, this is pretty big, and I'd paddled this rapid before a number of years ago. I thought maybe it would look easier over time, but it was still pretty big. I didn't really want to weigh in on what Abby thought. I wanted to hear her work through it on her own, and obviously I'm there as the parent, and I can say yes or no if I didn't feel good about it. But she sat there and she looked at it and she looked at it, and I saw tears rolling down her cheek, and she was quiet. And she's walking up and down the rapid looking at everything.
I'm just sitting there crying it down and thinking of my options, and I'm totally capable. It's just so scary. Then finally it gets real, and it's like my parents, it took them 8 years to get on a trip. This was my mom's first trip. It's like I can't just miss this opportunity and pass it up.
Finally she came up and she's like, okay, I think I want to run the left side. And I'm like, well, let's look at it.
The left side looked easier to Abby because the water moves a little slower and doesn't look as big. But Peter could see that the line had higher consequences. More things she could conquer head-on underwater if she flipped, and more things that could pin her boat.
And we looked at it, we talked about it. I was like, no, I don't really feel comfortable with you running left. And she's like, well, where do I go? And I was like, well, you got to go right, and you got to go down the normal line. That's like why it's the normal line. It's because it's a good way to go. And she got more tears in her eyes, and she kind of locked up and got quiet again, and she took off, and then she came back. She's like, okay, tell me what you're thinking.
Peter told Abby his plan and offered to run the line in one of the extra kayaks so she could watch once before she had to decide.
And I was at the top, and I'm like, okay, gotta make this look easy. Don't screw this up. And so I dropped in and had a really great line. So I walk up, and she's like, let's run it. And I was like, do you want to look at it, talk about it more? She's like, nope, I'm done looking at it. I'm done talking about it. Let's go. We get in, and there's this other group that had pulled into the camp above. And they said something kind of flippant like, God, that little girl's going to run granite. And she just kind of looked at him. She's like, yep, I'm going to run it. And these guys are just kind of dumbfounded watching her get in this like little 5-foot pink kayak and paddle off to the top of this giant rapid. Out of the corner of my eye, I see these guys running down the trail to watch her go through it.
So I got in my boat. I started to drop into granite, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?
You ready, Abby? Okay, we'll go down the first tongue and we'll just try to ride the things, the waves.
Got it, let's go.
Okay.
And I got to second wave, and I flipped.
When she flipped the first time, I was like, oh man, this is a horrible place to swim. And, she would have been fine. She's wearing a PFD, and she's in a dry suit. She's got all the gear to make that safe. But it still would have been a bad experience.
And then I rolled up right away.
And I was like, oh, great, she's up. Awesome. All the work we've done has paid off. And then she got flipped again shortly after. Another big wave just crashed on her and just knocked her over. There for a second, I was like, wow, was this a good parent move or a bad parent move?
And then right as I was like, okay, I'm clear, I can roll, there's this one hole that I was scared about, and I could feel myself just go through it, and it was just like this big pounding, and I just felt my boat like almost sink, it felt like. And then I was like, okay, I know I'm through that hole, there's nothing behind me. And by that point, I was under for a long time, it felt like. It felt like at least in a minute, but I'm sure it wasn't. I was like, okay, if I miss my roll on this one, I'm pulling. Like, I can't hold my breath any longer. And so I was like, I don't really want to swim. Okay, here I go. I'm rolling. And then I came up, and Dad's like, paddle to the eddy.
Come here, paddle to the other side. Catch the eddy. You're good, you're good.
She came up and she had that look of almost fear. I'd seen it a million times as her going from a tiny little kid kayaking the smallest little wave that might have splashed her in the face. She has this look like, am I okay, or is this fun? And there's a moment there where you don't know if it's awful or if it's the most fun thing you've ever done. And she rolled up and she had that look for just a half a second, and then it went to the biggest smile. And I knew it was like, wow, she just had a life-changing moment. It was awesome.
Way to hold in there for a good roll. Give me a 5. Maybe 5 seconds.
No, I'm longer than that.
You hung in there. You did awesome. You want to do a second lap?
Can I get an ice cream once we get out for that?
You get ice cream. Yes, you will.
Can I get my own Lindsay container for that one?
Absolutely. You can get whatever you want. That was huge.
Do I go?
No. You did good, but you should never do that for something you want. You should do it because you want to do it and you think it's fun.
I didn't think it was fun, but I really wanted to do it.
Were there moments where you were watching her in that rapid and like, oh God, did we make the wrong decision?
I elected to walk around Granite. It wasn't a rapid that I was interested in running. It was big and scary for me. So as a parent, it was really difficult to let her go through something that I personally wasn't ready to rise to the challenge of. She's a really good kayaker. So I wasn't worried as much about her safety as I was if she were to be in one of the rapids and end up swimming it, how that would impact her confidence. And so I'm pretty sure I had tears in my eyes as I watched her go down the rapid, and then just jubilation as she rolled up. And I felt like I was watching this movie of my kid who's trained and practiced and prepared for this moment to struggle and then shine so brightly through the whole thing. She persevered through something really hard and scary and did a great job at it. And that's really what every parent wants.
What makes you want to paddle the whole Grand Canyon?
I don't know.
You're not going to get rich from paddling the whole Grand Canyon.
Just to say I did it.
You're not going to get famous.
No.
What's the draw?
I feel like I'm starting to get older and I can't just get away with like, I surfed this little itty bitty wave and I still like that look of like, whoa, you did what? That kind of just sets a little fire in me. It's like, oh, I still want to be that cool little kid or cool teenager or whatever that's running rad whitewater, even though it's not the biggest whitewater in the world. It's pretty big.
So you feel like you're doing this just to impress other people?
No. I kind of feel like I've always felt like I can't run it. Like, it's so big, I just can't run it. And I kind of want to prove myself wrong and run all the big ones.
Okay. Cool. When I'm in the Grand Canyon,
When I'm in the Grand Canyon, I feel joy and happiness and just a fun time. I think I feel that more now that I'm through most of the big rapids except for lava. Like, sure, I have lava, you know, it is what it is, it's there.
So lava is the big rapid of the Grand Canyon. Like, every kayaker knows about lava and how scary it is, or that's what I've heard about. That was the one I was really nervous about on the trip. And so it was really surprising to me to like go through Granite and like all those big rapids. It's like Granite was massive and lava's the notorious one. Like, oh no, I'm in for it. You know, you're trying not to think about it, but you can't help it.
It's the morning of the day that we're gonna run lava. We are packing up the rafts and packing up camp. And we're cooking omelets this morning and bacon, which I'm pretty excited about. That sounds so good. I'm definitely nervous for lava.
what do you think the chances are of you flipping or swimming?
I think the chances of me flipping are pretty high, but the chances of me swimming are pretty low. So.
There's this long lead in, and you get up there, and you can't really see it. It's like a horizon line. It just drops off like a waterfall. But you get out this little beach, and you scramble up this trail and onto this kind of rocky point, and you can look down on the whole thing, and it's like looking down on the valley of death. And I look back at her right as soon as I can look down on the rapid, and I see her reaction, and I see her just go numb. And I'm like, well, what do you think? This is lava. And she just didn't even respond.
And so I sat there and I cried and I looked at it and then I thought about it.
And I've kind of learned just to leave her alone, let her walk back and forth and look at it a bunch. And she did that for a long time. I mean, like hours.
And I was like, you know, this is kind of the same as Granite. And I would have really regretted it if I wouldn't have ran granite, because I knew I was capable, and it might have been scary and I might have flipped a few times, but it was totally worth it.
She came up and she's like, okay, I know where I want to run it. Let's go. I want to go right now. I was like, okay.
Okay, so I've been looking at it for maybe 30 minutes to an hour. It keeps on getting better and better. It looks better and better anyways. Maybe I'm just adjusting to the huge size. But we're walking down to go run it right now.
And so we drop in and I look over my shoulder and I get flipped myself. And next thing I know, I'm underwater and I'm like, oh crap. I probably just made it way harder for her because she sees me flip and she's gonna think then that she's gonna flip there. Oh, I just blew it. But then I roll up as quick as I can. I get back online. I look over my shoulder and I can't see her. And she's in between these giant waves. You know, there's like a moment where you black out and you can't see above it. It's like you're in a valley. And so then I come up on the next peak of the next wave and I look back and yep, she's there and she's online. She's paddling. I'm like, oh, good. She goes through it pretty much better than I did.
I ran lava! Yeah! Woohoo! I ran it! I ran it! I ran lava! I did it! I ran it clean! I didn't even flip! Ah, I ran lava!
I just felt so happy. I was like, this is the easiest rapid on the whole river. That was awesome. And of course it wasn't the easiest rapid of the whole river, but I was just so excited and happy that I finally overcame this big hurdle, and I knew then that I totally could paddle the whole canyon.
It's neat to go with your kid and have them conquer something so big. And I hate to use the word conquer because you don't really conquer rivers. You hope to have a tie. But for her, she conquered a lot of personal things and challenged herself in the outdoors, which is really what I want out of this trip, is to give her these experiences where she can really grow and shine and do things that will teach her a lot of stuff about herself.
A few days later, all of the rapids were behind them. But the Grand Canyon wasn't over. 30 miles of flat water separated the party from their takeout at Pierce Ferry. They'd planned to split the distance up into two 15-mile days. But the forecast on the second day called for 30-mile-an-hour winds with 45 to 50-mile-an-hour gusts. The rafts wouldn't be able to paddle through that all day. If Abby really wanted to say she kayaked the whole Grand Canyon, she'd have to keep paddling and not jump in the raft.
And so we decided to just do the last 30 miles and bang it out in one day, which was pretty brutal because the wind was still pretty bad.
We had a couple of storms that came through that had big gusts and big rumbles of thunder. And so, you know, the rapids are a minute, and the 30 miles of flat water is 8 or 10 hours. And so it's a perseverance thing. And when you're 12, that's tough. For Abby, who loves being on whitewater, I think that actually might have been the hardest part.
There's a couple of times where it's like, oh, I'm just so tired. I want to go get on the raft. And then I'd paddle over the raft and I'd think about it. And it's like, I just ran through granite and lava. No way am I getting out in flat water.
That was the part where, as a parent, I really had to support her and keep her entertained and play games with her and tell stories and make jokes and try to pass those long, long hours. So it was maybe the hardest part for Abby, but the most fun time together.
We're almost there! It's like a horse in the home stretch.
On March 28th, the Holcombes and their team paddled up to Pierce Ferry.
She's like, okay, can we go do it again tomorrow? And I was like, wow, 25 days in the middle of nowhere, and she just wants to go right back. And that's an extraordinary thing.
The National Park Service doesn't keep records on the age of river travelers. But the Grand Canyon Historical Society thinks that there's a very strong chance that Abby is the youngest person to have kayaked the entire Grand Canyon. She definitely holds the record for the smallest boat ever paddled from Lee's Ferry to Pierce Ferry, without any swims or portages.
Do you think Abby's different in any way than she was before that trip?
I think she grew up a lot in the canyon. She was a fully participating member of our trip, and I hadn't seen that before in her. And she's carried some of that with her off of the canyon too. She's still a 13-year-old kid, but I think she wants more independence than she's ever really wanted before. She's ready to charge out in the world and do anything. She's like, oh, I can go get the groceries. No need to help me. I've got it. Thanks.
I think she's got a lot more confidence, and she compares a lot of things. Like, well, it's not as big as the Grand Canyon, or, this, that, and the other. But I think overall she's learned that if she sits down, thinks about things, breaks it into little pieces, that she can do almost anything. And I think you can apply that to everything in life.
I think when we pursue sports that are inherently risky, we learn about ourselves and we learn the difference between perceived limitations and actual limitations. And when you can filter between when you're afraid because there's danger versus afraid because it's intimidating, you can apply those to anything in life. And so by giving Abby these experiences, we hope that she's learning the difference of just being fearful and being able to read real dangers.
Okay, so outside of even kayaking, what do you think this teaches you?
I think it teaches me that there's nothing stopping me and I can do anything.
Today's the day we're gonna shine. Shine, shine, shine. Today. Today's the day we're gonna shine. Shine, shine, shine. Today.
Abby, thanks for coming back on the show. 9 years ago, if you can believe it, we released an episode here on the Diaries called Winnebago Warriors. And it was about you and your family. And at the time, I think you were just 12 years old and you were living in an RV with your parents. You were kayaking all over the West. And at the end of the story, we leave you having just become the youngest female, I believe, at the time to have ever kayaked the whole Grand Canyon. And so we've just been wondering, like, what happens next? I mean, did you and your family, did you move back indoors afterwards? Like, what did life look like for you guys after that trip?
Oh my gosh, well, thank you so much for having me back. It is crazy to think that it was 9 years ago. Yeah, so at this point, I'm at 12 years of full-time travel. I actually just signed a lease for an apartment, and I'm going to settle down at the end of the month. And yeah, so it's been kind of crazy, but it's been amazing. We went and shipped a van to Europe, and we traveled around Europe for 6 months. And I had a van and traveled solo for 3 years. Like, as soon as I turned 18, I moved out and got a van and started traveling solo. And I've been all around the world chasing rivers and competitions, and it's been absolutely
so cool.
amazing.
Yeah, I think for a lot of families with children, school can feel like maybe the limiting factor for how to live life on the road. And in that episode, you were talking about doing online school. And I feel like that's become a lot more possible, maybe, after the pandemic and things like that. But what did schooling continue to look like for you? Like, did that keep working for you at the time? I know that you were feeling like it was pretty awesome. So how did that go?
I think all of the real world experiences I was getting through our travels was invaluable, like in my education. As I got older, though, we found a lot of the online school programs were hard because they weren't built for people who were traveling and having all these cool experiences around the world. And kind of the turning point for us with the online school was I was competing in my first world championships for kayaking. We were in Sort, Spain, and we were living there for a month. And I did not have any time to go do anything in Spain because I was stuck in the apartment doing Spanish homework, of all things, the whole month we were there. And we wrote to like my teachers, and we were trying to see if there's any way I could do like any immersive, like write a paper on what I'm experiencing around me. And they said, no, you just have to follow the book. And so at that point, my parents were like, this is insane. Like, we're living in Spain. She can't even like interact and speak Spanish to Spanish speaking people. And we got to find something different. So I was 15 at that point, and we happened to be introduced to the Open School in Colorado, which is a normal brick and mortar high school. And they kind of just were really excited about our story, and they'd been wanting to do something virtual for a while. And so they figured I could be the guinea pig. So I worked directly with the principal, and I kind of got to like get integrated to this like normal school, this normal high school. And I just absolutely thrive. The way the Open School works is it's a little more like Montessori, like kind of like grad school, where you got to do like project-based assignments to graduate. And so one of them was like starting a business, and I wrote like a 30-page paper on like river conservation and like river pollution and all kinds of like cool projects that I got to do that were like relevant to me and just made me so excited to learn. So I finished that, and I graduated all of high school in like 2 years or something crazy with the Open School. And it actually lined up really well because during the pandemic, they'd already been working with me for a year virtually with Zoom and stuff. And so when the pandemic happened, they were able to kind of use me as the guinea pig to then figure out how to do remote learning for everyone else since they couldn't be in person. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
You know, I think that for most people who spend any time on the road, you know, traveling full time can be really exciting and exhilarating and also kind of exhausting at times. And I'm curious, through this last decade plus, how your understanding of home has evolved.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that today. I'm staying with some wonderful friends right now, and I was on the phone with my parents, and I was like, oh, I'm driving home. And, you know, right now home is their house, and soon home will be an apartment for me. But there's so many places and people that I've called home, and I just feel really fortunate to have been with so many people and in so many incredible places, and to have so many places that feel like home. I think that's really special, and I wouldn't have had that if it weren't for 12
Are there
years of
any
travel.
little things that you're looking forward to about being back indoors now?
Yes. So I just finished my first semester of college, actually, and I lived in a travel trailer doing my first semester of college, which I think is very on brand for me. And I'm somewhere where it's just like really snowy and cold, and I was dealing with like dumping the tanks at night with like snow and whatever. And so I am so excited to have running water and a toilet that flushes and a dishwasher.
Ooh, a dishwasher. Nice. Yeah.
A dishwasher, I know, life-changing.
That's awesome. So in that episode, we followed you through the Grand Canyon, which is a huge accomplishment for any boater, right? How has your relationship to kayaking grown since then? And when you look back on that Grand Canyon trip, did it feel like it marked any sort of turning point for you, or was it, in retrospect, one of 1,000 amazing river trips that you'd been on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the catalyst for such an incredible future and like so many cool opportunities that I've gotten since then. The Grand Canyon was such a pivotal moment in my life where I set a really big goal for the first time, and I had to believe in myself and to work hard and to push past fears and barriers and to accomplish that goal. And I think that kind of showed me that that's possible, and that there are, you know, scary things, whether that's big rapids or societal barriers or whatever that might look like. And that has really shaped who I am as a person as well as an athlete. So yeah, that was really cool. And then the next year, actually, after I set the record, we got another Grand Canyon permit, and we did a self-support. And so I had my own boat with all of my gear for, I think we were on the river for like 13 days. So that was a different challenge in the canyon, and I paddled the whole thing. And yeah, it was really cool. And I haven't been back since then, but I'd love to go back on the canyon.
Yeah, and at some point, you shifted your focus to freestyle kayaking. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your drive to get into that style of the sport and into competition, and yeah, what kind of drew you to shift your focus into like this other branch of boating?
So on the Grand Canyon, specifically at Granite, I got confident being upside down and being underwater, and that was like huge for me as an athlete. And then freestyle kayaking is where you surf standing waves in the river and you throw acrobatic tricks like gymnastics in a kayak. And I was always drawn to that because it's like flying in the air in a kayak, and I just craved that sensation. But I was always so scared of being upside down that I didn't know if it would be something in my future. But I think that Grand Canyon moment made me comfortable upside down, and it gave me confidence in my roll, which is something you need to have as a freestyle athlete because you roll like 1,000 times a day because you're always on your head learning new tricks. And yeah, so from there I got opportunities to work with like world champions, and you're not eligible to compete in the world championships until the year you turn 15. So I had like 3 years, I guess, to kind of work towards that goal. But that was a really big goal of mine. When I was 11, I watched and spectated my very first world championships, and I watched some of my friends win. And in that moment, that was kind of what drew me to kayaking, I guess. You know, before then I was so little and scared of the water that I didn't really know if kayaking was my thing. But when I watched my friends win, I was like, I want to be a world champion one day too. And so, you know, moments like the Grand Canyon kind of gave me confidence and like that drive to achieve that goal. So I had my first world championships, like I said, when I was 15 in Spain. I placed 4th, which was exciting. It was a great taste of like the world stage. You know, I got there and I had no idea what to expect. I was super underprepared and overwhelmed and just had no idea what competition at that level would look like. But I was really grateful and lucky to have Claire O'Hara, former world champion, kind of like take me under her wing and coach me and kind of show me the ropes. And then the next world championships was in 2022 because of COVID. It was in Nottingham, England, and that was actually where I won the world championships. And it was really monumental and exciting for me and changed a lot about how I see myself and see the world and chase after big
and
goals,
so now
I guess.
You're in your 20s, you're in college, you're moving into an apartment. Is kayaking still a big part of your life? Like, how are you integrating that now that you're kind of moving into young adulthood?
The fire is very much still alive for kayaking. It looks a little different now. This past winter, I spent the winter teaching youth kayak lessons in the pool, and I've started to do like weekly women's paddles. And so I'm kind of in the era of like giving back and helping inspire and encourage the next generation, which has been so fulfilling. But I'm also still very much so competing and training. I just wrapped up 6 weeks of competing in Colorado. I actually just won the GoPro Mountain Games for my very first time, which was so exciting, and it's been a goal of mine for a very long time. So yeah, I'm all about chasing after. There's such a big discrepancy between what men and women can do in freestyle kayaking, and it's a big project, I guess, or passion of mine to push that barrier and show that women are just as capable as the men in our sport, and that we can do all the tricks and we can have the high scoring rides that the men can do. And so that is really important to me. So while I am giving back and, you know, approaching the sport in different ways now, that's still like something that's really important to me and I'm still working towards. So a little bit of both. I think I'm a lot more balanced and have a lot more depth to me. You know, there was a long time where like obviously I did the Grand Canyon, but I was so focused on freestyle that I wasn't running rivers, and now I like running rivers and I'm kind of interested with running waterfalls, and I've been flirting with that a little bit. And I think I've just grown as an athlete, and there's more to me than, you know, just the Grand Canyon or just freestyle. I think I just love my time on the river however I can get on the water and enjoy it.
A huge thank you to Abby, Peter, and Kathy for sharing their story. While Abby's settling down, Peter and Kathy are still traveling the world. You can follow them on Instagram. We'll put links in the show notes. And on Instagram, we'll be sharing some photos from the past and present of the Holcombes' adventures. Music today by Bradley Carter, Publish the Quest, Ken Christensen, Jason Tyler Burton, Little Glass Men, and Brendan O'Connell. The tracks are courtesy of the artists or Free Music Archive. Jacob Bain and Nis Cotto composed our theme song. You can find the links to the artists at our website. This episode was produced by Jen Altschul with additional production help from Lauren Delani Miller and Daniel Jungworth. Artwork by Walker Cahal. Becca Cahal is our executive producer. I'm Fitz Cahal, and you've been listening to the Dirtbag Diaries. Thanks for tuning in.